Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today I want to tell you about 10 great action movies on Amazon Prime that are all better than Transformers. So Transformers: The Last Night, which is the one from 2017 with Mark Wahlberg, is currently available on Amazon Prime, and it is a cool movie. The point of this is not for me to bash on Transformers, but it's to compare some other action movies and sort of use Transformers as a way to explain why these movies are better and therefore why you should watch them. Now, the Transformers series is full of just some incredible visuals and sort of amazing action, but this cool stuff we're seeing on screen is not driven by story. It's just action, and the action should revolve more around what's happening within the story. So here are some action movies that really focus more on the story, and I think they're better entertainment because of it. So Sleepless with Jamie Foxx is a pretty cool action movie, and it's actually a remake of, I believe, a French movie called Sleepless Night. Now, Sleepless Night is not available on Prime, but it is very, very similar to sort of a John Wick type of thing. If you want to hunt that movie down, I highly recommend it. Sleepless is almost the same story, but it takes place in Vegas, and it's cool. It all takes place over one night. It's got some good action sequences in it. It's fairly low budget, especially for a Jamie Foxx movie, but I enjoyed it. The only thing that held me back on this one is that I was constantly comparing it to the original, and it's just not quite as good. But if you never watched this one, I recommend checking it out on Prime. One of the hottest stars of the year, Jason Momoa, stars in Braven from just last year. This was sort of a straight to VOD release, but it's good. I like it. It's a cool movie. It takes place up in the snow. It's sort of a manhunt type of a thing. So you get man versus nature, man versus man, and everything that's happening, all the fight sequences, all the shooting, all the chasing, it's all driven around this story. Now, trust me, these movies, for the most part, there's a couple on here, but they're not masterpieces. But because they focus more on story, they are more entertaining and they keep you engaged because there's consequences. You want to see what the outcome's going to be. You want to see what happens here and there. It's not just what I would consider to be more mindless action, which mindless action's fine, but it's not as engaging as something that's a little more well thought out. The Commuter with Liam Neeson is pretty much what it sounds like. It's just another Liam Neeson action movie. And this one is fairly light on action, but I liked it. Again, everything that's happening on this train. He rides a commuter train. He's thrust into this situation he doesn't really want to be in. He's not involved in. It gets more and more intense. There's not, like I said, there's not a lot of action. It's more of a mystery movie. There's one really good fight sequence with a guitar that it's not with a guitar, but there's a guitar featured in it. That's pretty cool. There's a couple of sequences that may take place under or outside of the train that work out pretty well. I'm not a big fan of PG-13 action, but this one was surprisingly good in a market flooded with Liam Neeson action movies. This one still manages to work. Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets is one that really got looked over last year. It's from director Luc Besson, who's famous for The Professional, La Femme Nikita, and The Fifth Element, this movie being more closely related to The Fifth Element. Amazing visuals in this one. Really cool action, a lot of CGI-driven action, which I tend to not like as much, which is one of the reasons I don't love Transformers. But in this case, they do a good job of setting it up, because you're dealing with like weird technology that we don't know anything about. It's a fantasy world, and they do a good job of setting up the rules so that you can watch the action play out. You understand the time limit that they have. You understand the consequences that they face. They set all that up, and that's why this works better. Whereas Transformers, really, again, I'm not hating on them, but it really is just robots clashing and fighting and shooting. Whereas if you watch Valerian, there's all kinds of weird, quirky little things that come into play, and that's what keeps the ball rolling, and that's what keeps it entertaining. Yet another PG-13 entry on this list. Sahara with Matthew McConaughey is certainly not one of his best, but it was a nice little step into action movies, and it really got overlooked. Unfortunately, it does have some, I know this is blasphemy, but it's got some close to Indiana Jones action sequences in it. In particular, one with a couple of speedboats. I really love the speedboat sequence, probably most of all out of this movie. You do have to be aware of the geography of this action sequence, knowing where everybody's at any given moment. And that's a hard thing to do, and they do it really well with this movie, which is why it makes the list. If you like content like this, even if you like the Transformers movies, go ahead and click that subscribe button and be sure to click the little bell icon so you get notified when I put out new videos just like this one. And number 6, Kick-Ass. I really like this one. The first Kick-Ass movie is currently available. I always love when new things happen within the superhero genre. I just did a full podcast. I'll put a link to that in the description below, where I talk about all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, specifically, Unbreakable and Split. So I really love when somebody does something fun and different with that superhero genre, and Kick-Ass is no exception. It's a hard R for a movie that doesn't really feel like it should be. It's colorful and fun, kind of like the original Spider-Man movie, yet you get this bloody R rating. But ultimately, this one's just fun, and where there are maybe some mindless sequences that aren't as clever as some of the other ones I'm talking about, the story is clever, and you're constantly engaged with what's happening with these characters, which is why this one stays engaged from beginning to end, and also why the second one did not. All right, top 4, we're getting in the cream of the crop. Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a classic. I love most classic Schwarzenegger movies. This one's not the best, but it is great, and it's in addition to being a good action movie, it's also a really good sci-fi movie. For a movie where they go to Mars, Total Recall is one of the best. It's got chase sequences, fighting. It's got weird sci-fi elements. This is back when practical effects were almost at their peak, and there's some classic elements in this that, yeah, they don't look 100% convincing, but they're still so much more fun to watch than just another CGI robot head open up. You get to see a real one with Arnold Schwarzenegger's rubber face in it. It's just so much better to me. You get to see him pull that giant thing out of his fucking nose. This is just a favorite of mine. If it's one of yours, let me know in the comments. Now, I'm sure I'll hear some comments on this one, but the Untouchables, while it doesn't really fall into the action category, it is an action movie. There's a sequence with the horses. There's the shootout on the stairs. There's the chase in the courtroom that ends up on the roof. And there's several action sequences in this movie, which is why I had to put it on the list. If you never saw The Untouchables because you don't like watching old movies, do yourself a favor. Don't rent whatever the hell's coming out. Don't rent Once Upon a Deadpool, even though I like my Deadpool. Watch it. It's such a good movie. Boondock Saints is also on Amazon Prime. It's also currently on Netflix, which is why it was on the list of the best shootouts you can watch on Netflix. I just released that video last week. If you have not seen it yet, go check that one out because it was a lot of fun and another good way to see a list of action movies you can currently watch on streaming. But the Boondock Saints is a classic. I believe you can watch the sequel on Amazon Prime as well, and I like the sequel. It's a little sillier than the original, but it's a worthy sequel, but the original's really cool. It's just guns and cigarettes and black coats and ski masks and shootouts and scotch, and it's a butch freaking movie, and it's got some cool action sequences in it that were done on an extremely low budget. If you know that going into it, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see, oh, they shot this that way because they couldn't really do this big epic shootout, yet it still works so well. It serves the story. And again, above all else, it's entertaining and keeps you engaged the entire time. Payback with Mel Gibson. Such a cool movie. Not only is it a cool story with some good action in it, but it's shot with this really cool, swanky, kind of Sin City type of a vibe. Again, that makes it fun to watch all the way through. And this one's actually a remake of an old movie with Lee Marvin called Point Blank. I mentioned that one off the cuff fairly recently. I wanted to do a full list of classic movies, but then they got rid of like almost everything on my list at the drop of a hat on Amazon Prime, so I couldn't even release that video. It's a shame. If you've never seen Point Blank with Lee Marvin, I cannot recommend it enough. In fact, that and Payback would make a really killer double feature. You could probably spend $2 to rent Point Blank and then watch Payback included with Amazon Prime. Let me know what action movies on this list are your favorite, even if Transformers is your favorite over these. Again, I'm not really hating on Transformers, but there's a reason that those movies sort of get panned critically. While they are really fun and visually impressive, the story gets lost in all of that, whereas these movies really, the story drives the action. So I wanted to kind of introduce that concept to you, while at the same time telling you just about some great movies that you can watch on Amazon Prime. I promise, I've got a list of the best horror movies on Netflix. I've got it right here in front of me. I will be filming that and releasing it very, very soon, so stay tuned. But I will keep releasing videos like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one. Real quick, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so in a number of ways. You can support me on Patreon. There's a link to the description. You can support me for as little as $1. If you give more, you could get a free t-shirt and a producer credit at the end of every video. So be sure to at least check out the tiers to see if it's something you want to do. If you find that you get value, maybe I save you some money on rentals, maybe I save you time and headache looking for movies, you want to throw me a couple bones, it will only help me become more independent so that I can produce more and better content for you going forward in the future. And another way to support the show is to visit the Amazon shop. There's a link to that in the description as well. If you're going to buy movies anyway, you might as well buy them there. They're just listed on Amazon. I'm not selling them to you, but I've curated the best deals I could find on the best movies I could find. Just go there, shop. If you see something that strikes your fancy, most of them you can get free shipping with Prime, and they're $5 to $10 for Blu-rays, and I get a little bit of kickback for putting together these lists, so check that out as well, especially if you buy Blu-rays anyway. Or at the very least, just like, comment, subscribe, share this video, because that always helps. But I appreciate any type of support I can get, and thanks again for watching.